Good morning, YouTube. This is a video on my 1984 Volkswagen Vanagon Westfalia. Today actually marks the third anniversary that I've owned this Vanagon. I actually bought her from a gentleman in Seattle. He was actually a service member in the Coast Guard getting ready for deployment, and he was pretty anxious and really wanted to sell her before he left, so I was able to pick it up at more than reasonable price. Those of you in the market for a Vanagon know how quickly these are appreciating in value. The recent resurgence in the van life movement, especially with the younger generation, has really forced the market value on these things. I actually think in a lot of cases they're way overpriced, especially for the four-wheel drive synchro models, but it's I guess what the market will bear. My priorities pretty much when I was looking for Vanagons was I wanted one with good bones. In other words, I was looking for a model that had zero to little rust, and I was very fortunate in finding this one. As you can see, it's really in good shape. Cosmetically, as far as exterior goes, I really haven't done a lot. I've done a lot as far as the interior goes. But my primary focus today, there's a ton of videos out there on Vanagons, most of which I viewed when I was in the market. So what I'd like to focus on today primarily are some of the modifications I've done over the last 3 years. And here's a quick shot of the interior. I pretty much reupholstered all the seats, installed the hardwood flooring. Mechanically, as far as the appliances, everything worked when I purchased the vehicle, and so there was nothing required there. Kind of my priority in terms of modifications is I wanted to start in areas of safety, and one of the things, I was pretty fortunate, the young man I bought it from had already changed the wheels, and the original Vanagon wheels came with 14-inch tires, which had a very high profile, which led to really instability. The cornering was very squishy because you had all that rubber. So what a lot of people do is they mod to a 15 or 16-inch wheel. This is a 16-inch, and as you can see, it's a much smaller profile, which gives you much better stability. In addition to that, it you mount a much wider tire. Again, with a wider offset, it actually sticks out a little further, so it gives you much better handling. And again, here's an overview. I just washed it. My daughter and I were on our way to Arizona. We're going to do Havasu Falls, which is a little bit south of the Grand Canyon. And then we're proceeding west. She's going to be working at Kings Canyon for the summer. Okay. And what I'd like to do at this point is actually move the van outside. It'll give me a little bit more maneuvering room. It is April 4th. We had a foot of snow last night in Minnesota. Even by our standards, that's a little late in the year, but that's Minnesota for you. In fact, I've had family members ask me, well, why do you still live in Minnesota? And pretty much what I do is I quote the late great Prince. He was questioned many times about, with all his fortune and fame, why does he continue to live in Minnesota? And his response is always, well, the cold keeps the riffraff out. So that pretty much wraps it up. Okay, stand by. I'm going to move the van outside. Okay, here we go. And like I mentioned, last night we had almost a foot of snow. But you can see it is beautiful though. Just a shot of the trees with the snow. Okay, back to the van. Okay, again, like I said, there's a ton of videos out there on the Vanagon, so what I'd like to focus on are some of the modifications that I've completed. Again, my primary focus initially was on safety, and one of the things that you'll hear from Vanagon owners, especially with the earlier model vans, are the headlights. The original headlights only had the two, and they were very, very dim. In fact, at night it was almost downright scary. So what I did, and what a lot of folks will do, is they'll put this South African headlight assembly on, and as you can see, there's four. The two inner lights are the high beams, and then the outside lights are your low beams, but very, very intense, and it lights up the road very nice. And in the same vein of lighting, I also replaced the running lights and the tail and brake lights to LEDs, and they're much, much brighter. Yeah, folks can actually see me at night now. Again, keeping in theme with safety, one of the things that I think a lot of owners want to do, but it's a pretty expensive upgrade, is the brakes. The brakes on the Vanagon are actually pretty poor, given the fact that it's a 5,000 plus pound vehicle. So what I did was I upgraded to the big brake system. They're basically Audi brakes, but give you almost twice the stopping capacity. And you can't really see them, because what I've done as well is I put these tin brake shields on here, because I was just tired of all the brake dust getting on the wheels and on the body of the van, and I'm pretty anal about keeping my van clean. Let's see. Of course, you've probably noticed the bra. I use that especially for long distance driving, to keep all the rock chips off of the leading edge of the van there. One of the problems when you upgrade to the bigger wheels, you can't keep the spare tire in the designated compartment up front. They're just too wide. So what I did was I bought the tire carrier, just for peace of mind. I put, as you can see, a ladder on there. I'm able to mount my bike rack between these horizontal bars here. Then I can strap a jerry can for extra gas or whatever on the ladder as well. As far as the interior mods, again, one of the first things I did was reupholster the rear, as well as the front seats. These are actually seats out of a later model Vanagon. You can tell by the armrests. The earlier models didn't have them. And of course, that just gives much better comfort for long distance riding. Of course, you have to have a good stereo system. The earlier model Vanagons as well did not have air conditioning. However, some of the dealers, and I suspect that was the case with this one here, would install a dash mount AC unit, and it works real well. Yeah, I've driven Arizona, Nevada, Death Valley in the middle of summer, and it was more than capable of keeping the van cool. However, the biggest safety modification, I'm going to have to pause the video for a second, and that's in the engine compartment. The original 84 motor was a 1.9 liter Waza Boxer, which again, as you can imagine, powering a 5,000 pound vehicle was it was downright scary, especially trying to get across the Rockies, Route 70. You could barely maintain 45 miles per hour, and having 18-wheelers pass you on the freeway was quite scary. So what you see here is a 2002 Subaru Outback 2.5 liter, which has approximately 170 horsepower, so almost double of what the original Vanagon motor had. Nice thing is that the Subaru motors, they're boxer engines, and what that means is that the pistons work horizontally versus vertically, like you see in most V6s, V8s, V4s. So it's a much flatter engine, and it fits in this engine bay quite nicely. And I don't know if you can see it, plenty of clearance. And I can very easily maintain 75, even 80 if I want on the flats, and maintain speed in the high altitudes going across the Rockies. So that was probably the biggest improvement. And again, it's fairly expensive upgrade, but really well worth it if you're able to do so. Of course, got to have your hula girl. And this right here, this is probably one of the most inexpensive, but I tell you, there's no cup holders in the Vanagon, and there's nothing worse than spilling your latte or whatever you drink on the floor in your lap. So this goes right in the ashtray, and it's very stable. Another inexpensive upgrade went with the weight that potentially is on the rear door because of the ladder, and like I said, carrying my bike and fuel tank. The struts are unable to support that, so I put this little PVC pipe that just keeps the rear hatch from closing on me. Pretty inexpensive. I got the snow from the trees falling down on me. Replace the receptacle covers here. That's for anytime you use shore power, plus you have your water fill. There you go. That's my 1984 Vanagon Calabasa. Thanks for watching.